Thank you, Professor. It's nice to be here at this online. I wish I could make it face to face, but unfortunately, we are in Turkey, and I have gone to the surgery 1 month ago. That's why I couldn't do it. So today, I am going to talk about diplomacy and paradiplomacy, whether it's a challenge or an opportunity. And I will try to mention some findings that we got from field. It's an research that we are doing with Associate Professor Seven Erdoğan from Recep Tayyip Erdoğan University. So I hope you will find it valuable. And so why we choose paradiplomacy and diplomacy? Because the term paradiplomacy describes an operation carried out by subnational actors. What do I mean by subnational actors? Such as regional governments, municipalities, non-governmental organizations, or other local authorities that you can call whatever you want. So, in the area of when we talk about these subnational activities or actors, we talk these actors in the area of political science, public administration, international relations. So it's a little bit broad area that we can talk. So interactions with foreign governments, interaction with international organizations, interactions with other non-governmental organizations can be part of these activities as well. So how they can be part of these activities? They can be a part of these activities with geared advancing the interests of the subnational bodies in the target. So the currently, we operating process of globalization, regionalization, or digitalization. So, because of all of this, in the growing in decentralization of power and authority away from the national governments and towards subnational groups, these all change pressure over diplomacy with the emergence of paradiplomacy that we call. Thus, it is no more possible to have a comprehensive understanding of diplomacy solely by relying upon the, how can I say, traditional state-centric models and approaches, because it is also important to consider the paradiplomatic activities of the subnational actors to have a better understanding of state diplomatic activities. So, in this perspective, paradiplomacy is performing a progressively significant character in the determining the political climate around the world, and this trend is likely to persist in coming years. When we move in this direction, paradiplomacy also observes its place in a broad framework in Turkey as well. That's why we chose Turkey as a case study. And the ability of subnational actors to establish various partnerships on the international arena, it is one of the concerns that organizations face in this context. International partnership to be established also mean the internationalization of subnational actors. That's why we choose this study. So in this study, the example of Turkey will be empirically covered because Turkey, the government changed Turkey to Turkey, so we call it Turkey now. Turkey provides an interesting case study for understanding the dynamics of paradiplomacy and its implication for traditional diplomacy. That's why Turkey is a strong country, strong central country for the government, but also has a significant degree of regional diversity and history of subnational activities that engaging with other countries as well. That's why we chose Turkey as a case study. So we are talking about diplomacy and paradiplomacy. So when we look at the literature, and I will try to explain a little bit on diplomacy and paradiplomacy. Then I will talk about our findings, previous findings from this research. So what is diplomacy? Maybe we all know the meaning of the diplomacy, but when we look at the literature, diplomacy is examined. It is seen that there is no consensus on the concept, and there are different definition efforts on the diplomacy. So, for example, Satov in the late of 90s, he expressed the diplomacy as the application of intelligence and tact to the conduct of official relations between the government of independent states. For example, between Turkey to Greece, between Turkey to Germany. So different independent states. Satov also emphasized that the peaceful conduct of trade means between states in this process is important. When we look at this, diplomacy seen as the conduct of international relations through negotiation and other peaceful means designed to directly or indirectly encourage negotiation. So we can give some example in this one. For example, gathering information or creating goodwills maybe can be some good example in this direction. So in different perspectives, so when we look at it, maybe diplomacy used to be more inclusive, but it has become a state-centered practice in the modern period. When we look at the late 90s and the starting of 20,000 millennium, it's used as a practice of modern period. So this first major transformation in diplomacy after the establishment of the modern states, paradiplomacy occurred with the First World War. We can say that in the modern period. So during this period, all understanding of diplomacy has been changed, switched to a new one, because we are going to a modern, a globalized world. That's why diplomacy is important term for public administration, political science, and international relations, especially for the foreign affairs. So what is paradiplomacy in this direction? Paradiplomacy first in the 21st century taking subnational actors' behavior into account, which has become more prevalent in foreign policy analysis. So paradiplomacy is analyzed and should be analyzed as a new type of diplomacy when we look at the literature review, because paradiplomacy appears as a concept that introduced into the literature to express the activities that undertaken by subnational institutions or organizations. Like I said, regional governments, municipalities, local authorities, NGOs, that all can be involved in paradiplomacy in these directions. So when we look at the literature and when we look at the news, that we can see that paradiplomacy is increased currently. So this recent increase in paradiplomatic behavior has also, I can say that, an impact on paradiplomacy that is becoming conceptually popular in the world. We can hear that there is sister cities in the world. So it's an example for paradiplomacy when we look at it. So in this research, we used qualitative method. We made some interviews to understand the situation of paradiplomacy in Turkey. We have done about 20 interviews with foreign affairs officials, with academicians, with other organization representatives. In this direction, we've got some findings, but like I said during my presentation, these findings are provisional findings, so we are still gathering data on this. So when we look at the findings, the paradiplomacy, like I said, refers to diplomatic activities conducted by subnational entities, like I said, local authorities, municipalities, states, provinces, regions, or cities. It doesn't matter. We can categorize it in many spaces. So in this direction, during our interviews, we find that paradiplomacy can be both a challenge and an opportunity for diplomacy, depending on various factors and perspectives in Turkey. So paradiplomacy is a challenge because of the complexity and coordination. Because paradiplomacy can introduce complexity into the international relations. Second, paradiplomacy is conflict and create conflict and competition in the international area, because subnational entities engaging in paradiplomacy may pursue their own foreign policies that sometimes create conflict or compete against the national governments. That's why there will be a competition between local governments and central governments. Third, inconsistency about the governments. Fourth, impaired national sovereignty is another challenge for paradiplomacy in Turkey. So when we look at the opportunities.
Let me interrupt you here. Within 2 minutes, could you please
thank you, sir.
Elaborate and end your presentation? Thank you.
No worries. I will talk about opportunities, then I will finish. So when we look at opportunities of paradiplomacy in Turkey, it helps economic development, because subnational entities often engage in paradiplomacy to promote trade, attract foreign investment, develop international partnership. Like I said, sister cities is a good example in this one. Second, paradiplomacy helps cultural and create soft power. How? Because paradiplomacy can promote a country's culture, art, and tourism, and make an interaction with other countries. So that's how you can take many more tourists to your country. It's also helped decentralization of diplomacy. It also helped conflict resolution, and it also helped innovation and experimentation in this direction. So based on our finding, I would like to conclude, Professor Rahman. So when we look at the Turkey's experience with the paradiplomacy, paradiplomacy demonstrates that it can be a double-edged sword for diplomacy. While it offers opportunities for economic development, cultural promotion, and conflict resolution, it can also be a challenge related to coordination, representation, and conflict with the central government, like I said. The key lies in finding a balance between national and subnational interests and effectively managing these relationships to maximize the benefits of paradiplomacy can be a whole for a country like Turkey. So in this direction, I would like to finish my presentation because I can see Professor Rahman is looking at me. Thank you very much, sir, for giving this chance to me to present my paper. Thank you.